As the hours passed, Sophia found herself smiling at the children's energy. A little girl named Aisha insisted on teaching her a rhyme in their local language, clapping her small hands with enthusiasm. Sophia hesitated at first, embarrassed by the giggles around her, but eventually joined in. The laughter that erupted was pure, free of judgment. And for the first time in a long while, Sophia felt something different, warmth she had never known in her glittering social circles. Later, as they stepped back into the car, Sophia sat quietly, her phone untouched in her lap. Richard glanced at her and asked, "So, what did you think?" She took a moment before replying. They were happy, even without anything. How is that possible? Richard placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Because happiness is not bought, Sophia. It is created. It comes from gratitude, from giving, from finding joy in the smallest things. That is the richness I want you to know. That night, Sophia lay in her bed, staring at the chandelier above her. For years, she had thought her father was simply a successful businessman, a man whose fortune allowed her to live in luxury. But now she began to see another side of him, the side that built schools, funded dreams, and carried kindness as his true wealth. She wondered if she could ever become like him, if she could carry forward that legacy. The following week, the charity gala arrived. Sophia stood in front of her wardrobe, rows of expensive gowns hanging like colorful clouds. But her hand stopped on a simple white dress she had worn only once before. It wasn't designer, it wasn't new, but it was elegant and pure. She chose it without hesitation. At the gala, whispers followed her. Why isn't she in the latest collection? Didn't her father buy her something new? Sophia ignored them. When a group of children performed a small act on stage to raise awareness for education, Sophia clapped the loudest, her eyes shining. For the first time, she wasn't thinking of herself, but of them. Richard watched her from across the room, a quiet pride filling his heart. Over the next few months, Sophia began accompanying her father more often. She visited hospitals he donated to, shelters he supported, and villages where his foundation built wells for clean water. Each time, she learned something new, not from her father's lectures, but from the people she met. In one village, she met an old woman who pressed a handful of homemade sweets into her hand as a thank you. Sophia tried to refuse politely, knowing the woman probably had very little. But the woman smiled, her wrinkled face glowing, and said, When you accept what little I give, you honor me." Sophia accepted, tears filling her eyes as she realized the power of dignity and kindness. One rainy afternoon, Sophia returned home from school to find her father in the kitchen, something she rarely saw. He was helping the staff cook a large meal. "What's going on?" she asked curiously. Richard chuckled. "We're preparing food packets. The storm has left many people stranded without supplies. Come, help." At first, Sophia hesitated, unused to working with her hands in this way. Soon, she found herself rolling dough, packing rice, and tying bags. Hours later, as they drove through the flooded streets, distributing food to families stuck in small houses, Sophia felt a joy deeper than any shopping spree had ever given her. She watched children's faces light up as they received warm food, mothers sighing in relief, fathers bowing with gratitude. That night, exhausted and muddy, Sophia hugged her father tightly. "Dad, I think I understand now. Money can buy comfort, but kindness brings life." Richard kissed her forehead gently. "Yes, my dear. And one day, you will carry this forward even better than I ever did." As months turned into a year, Sophia's transformation became visible to everyone. Her friends noticed she no longer cared about competing over the latest handbags or showing off extravagant parties. Instead, she began organizing small initiatives at her school fundraisers, awareness drives, and even volunteering days. At first, her peers mocked her, calling her Miss Charity, but slowly, as they joined her and saw the impact, their laughter turned into admiration. Richard often stood in the background, letting her lead, letting her discover her own strength. He knew that the greatest gift he could give her was not money, but the confidence to live with purpose. Yet, not everything was easy. There were days when Sophia doubted herself, days when she wondered if she was truly making a difference. One evening, after a particularly discouraging day when her school project raised far less money than expected, she slumped into her father's study. "Maybe I'm not cut out for this," she whispered. Richard looked up from his papers and smiled softly. "Do you know how many of my business deals failed before I succeeded? More than I can count. Failure is not the end, Sophia. It is the proof that you are trying. Remember, every great tree begins as a fragile seed. Don't give up because of a small storm." She nodded slowly, his words sinking deep into her heart. That winter, something unexpected happened. Richard fell ill, not gravely, but enough to be confined to rest for several weeks. For a man used to constant activity, it was difficult, but he used the time to reflect. Sophia, however, felt the weight of responsibility for the first time. She took it upon herself to oversee some of his charitable projects. With nervous determination, she visited sites, met with people, and managed tasks. She stumbled, she made mistakes, but she also learned. The gratitude she received from people reminded her why her father had dedicated his life to this path. When Richard recovered, he found Sophia waiting with detailed notes of what she had done. His eyes glistened with pride as he realized his daughter was no longer just a child living under his shadow. She was beginning to walk her own path. One evening, they sat together on the balcony, overlooking the city lights. Richard spoke quietly, almost to himself. "You know, Sophia, one day I won't be here. And when that day comes, all of this," he gestured toward the sprawling city skyline, "will mean nothing if you do not carry kindness in your heart. Money fades, power shifts, shifts, but compassion lives forever in the lives you touch." Sophia leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. "I promise, Dad, I'll make you proud. I'll make sure the world knows that the real bloodline we carry is kindness."